Grab a set of pistols and slip on a form-fitting top and tiny shorts, cause it's about time to raid some tombs. Welcome to Mojo Plays, and this is the history of the Tomb Raider franchise. The very definition of an overnight sensation, Core Design was a little-known British studio before Croft became a gaming household name. Founded back in 1988, they started off as a small, humble studio, but over the years they built up a solid library of titles. None of their games were colossal grand slams in the industry, but they were entertaining enough to keep the company afloat. Then the 90s happened. After the success of 2D gaming, it was only a matter of time before developers would attempt to take it to the next level. Enter Toby Gard, an artist for Core Design who came up with a novel idea, an adventure game similar to Indiana Jones. The studio had produced something in this vein before, but it was time to go beyond Rick Dangerous and search for a new kind of hero. Thus, Laura Cruz was born. Sorry, we meant Lara Croft, because, you see, parent company Eidos wanted a more British presence for their character.
Now I'd better take off these wet clothes.
The idea of a female lead in a video game was kind of a rare one at the time. While gamers had seen their fair share of female characters, most of them weren't front and center save for the occasional rescue, spinning bird kick, cannon drill, fatality, or surprise I'm a woman after meeting specific parameters. But Core Design wanted the game to be as far removed from Indiana Jones as possible. And what better way than to present gamers with an ass-kicking woman with a thirst for adventure? The game was going to be launched on multiple platforms too, the Sega Saturn, the PlayStation, and PC. However, Sony passed on the first beta. Core Design responded by doubling down on their efforts, presenting Sony with voice acting, cutscenes, and tighter controls. This worked out much better, and in 1996, Tomb Raider was introduced to the world. While it was first released on the Sega Saturn, it was the PlayStation release that really skyrocketed Lara and Core Design's careers. Tomb Raider had become more than just a video game. Lara had become a pop culture icon. There hadn't been a character quite like her in gaming. From her no-nonsense attitude to character design that, well, let's face it, doesn't hold up too well today, but was completely groundbreaking at the time, the game itself received critical praise, but Eidos was using a very specific kind of marketing when it came to Miss Croft. Despite the incredible level of success, the overly sexified image of Lara wasn't what Gard had envisioned with the character he had created. To him, Lara posing for magazines went against who she was, and in 1997 he left to form his own company. But that didn't stop Eidos from wanting Core Design to push out more games, and boy did they ever push them out. You know how a lot of people complain about how quickly Call of Duty games are released? Imagine that breakneck turnaround pace, only for an adventure series where you only play as one character. From 1996 to 2003, there was a new Tomb Raider game every year, whether it was on a console or a handheld device. This wasn't nearly enough time for the studio to develop a story for Lara's new adventures. The sales were there, but the review scores started to plummet with each new release, and it felt like the franchise was losing its heart in favor of producing more games. On the outside, Lara was doing just fine. She had crossed over into comic books and even made the transition into film, but the development team behind the games was burnt out. In fact, they had actually wanted to take a break after the second game. They felt that they'd done everything they could with the current game engines and wanted to wait until the PlayStation 2 in order to present a new entry in the franchise. Eidos' response? Pfft, have another team within Core Design work on more Tomb Raider titles. And, oh, that second team didn't consist of the game's primary developers either. It went about as well as you'd expect.
No prizes for you this time, Lara. Ah well.
By the time fans got to the then next-gen Tomb Raider, there was not only fatigue within the series, but 2003's Angel of Darkness was also a critical failure after a series of delays. Even the producers of the second movie attacked the game, going so far as to blame it for poor ticket sales. This led to a crushing decision from Eidos. They handed over the reins of the Tomb Raider series to Crystal Dynamics, who at the time were known for the Legacy of Kain series. To add insult to injury, the new studio enlisted the help of a familiar face, Toby Gard. In 2006, Lara returned in Tomb Raider Legend, and it felt like a return to form. The game was generally praised for reinventing what had made the series great in the first place, and fans were eager to see what Crystal Dynamics had in store. But Core Design wasn't done yet. About 2 months after the release of Legend, a PSP video was leaked online, showing a revamped version of the very first game by the studio that had started it all. Only they no longer held the copyright, so nothing came of it. However, Eidos did announce an anniversary edition shortly after the leak, and in 2007, gamers got to replay Lara's first adventure with the graphics from Legend. Core Design hasn't touched the franchise ever since, and in 2010, they officially shut their doors. Meanwhile, Crystal Dynamics continues to be the driving force of the franchise. After merging with Square Enix in 2009, the studio rebranded Lara yet again and began to work on a reboot that would tell Lara's origin story. In it, gamers play through the development of Lady Croft, facing harrowing trials and gnarly death traps to become an unstoppable force. While they ditched the tiny shorts and double pistols, this new Lara is a survivor whose adversaries learn to fear her over time. Fan excitement quickly turned to skepticism, however, after the premiere of the Crossroads trailer, which was shown at E3 2012. This video seemed to depict Lara fending off a rapist, which some saw as a move in the wrong direction, turning one of the most badass women in games into just another victim. Crystal Dynamics Studios head Daryl Gallagher came to defense of this decision though, explaining that the scene in question was, in fact, the moment where Lara is forced to kill another human for the first time. When the game was released, it was met with critical praise, quelling most feelings of uncertainty. Tomb Raider was once again in the good graces of fans and critics alike. A sequel, Rise of the Tomb Raider, was released in November of 2015, once again receiving critical acclaim and further pushing the boundaries of what the Tomb Raider franchise is capable of. It was a move in the right direction, building on the story, tone, and gameplay mechanics from the first game. If there were still doubters of Crystal Dynamics and their take on the iconic character, this game was certainly enough to silence most of them.
It could make a difference to the world. It's not something to be hidden away.
The revitalization of the franchise has also led to a brand new big screen adaptation, which appears to be taking a page from the rebooted series of games in terms of story and tone. Fans have been receptive to this new take on Lara, and anticipation is high for the third game in the series, Shadow of the Tomb Raider. While it's definitely a bit of a downer knowing how things ended for her original developer, they should take solace in the fact that the story of Lara Croft is both a huge part of gaming's present and history.
Can't be too careful these days. The world has gone bloody mad.
I'll take 2.
Thanks for watching Mojo Plays. Be sure to subscribe and click on the link in the description below to check out our suggestion page and vote on what content you'd like to see us cover next.